Well, a couple things on silver preparation, bunch of BS. There's a lot of talk about both ways about silver. Not well. I don't think there's too many people actually say it's a bad investment, but they think in the dollar possibly is the best investment for the near-term future. I tend to disagree with that, and I'm not one of those silver pumpers. Um, I could regard silver partly not just as an investment, but also, like everybody knows, it's also for a serious emergency. And when a serious emergency comes about, or it's almost right there in your face, it's too late. It's too late. So, that's the deal. But considering how most people are, they never prepare. And if you look at this hurricane, what happened people didn't prepare for it either. Now I'm going to digress a little bit because I saw some stories about, yeah, you could have prepared for Hurricane Sandy, but it would have cost you $30,000. Hell, no, that's a bunch of BS. But that's going to be a good analogy with silver. You can prepare for the financial crisis now, cheap, right? Correct? I mean, silver is going up a little bit today. I know, yesterday I was talking about, I don't think it's going down in the 20s, so, today I look smart. I don't know what it's going to do tomorrow, but, today I look smart because it's going back up again. But I don't really think it's going down in the 20s, and I stated a couple things yesterday about why silver's going to finish up really strong in 2012 because gold especially because of anticipation of the physical cliff. They're going to move into this stuff because they know it's safety. They know it's safety when the dollar gets downgraded or whatever happens. The debt rating gets downgraded. But you're getting gold and silver before the calamity happens. That's important to know. It's not a get-rich scenario. And, I'm going to state something here because this is one thing that, boy, this aggravated me to the max. I saw this BJF mention this several times. And see, this is where I want to get on with these guys. And I don't know how many. I mean, Big Square probably makes crazier claims than this. But, you could take a roll of, when the height of silver comes about, you're going to be able to take a roll of 20 silver coins, and when silver really gets to its real value, this is what BJF says, you'll be able to buy a car with it, a brand new car. It'll be worth like, a roll will be worth like $1,000 each in real dollars, or basically maybe, in relative to other hard assets, it's going to go up that much. I'm going to say hell no. I'm going to say hell no. That's crazy. That's crazy stuff. And silver's not the be-all, end-all commodity that makes the earth go around. Jim Rogers is probably 110% right about agriculture. He's got gold, he's got some silver, but you want an asset that actually people have to have that's going to maybe be in rare supply. And it's an asset that keeps renewing, and it's an asset you can keep charging for. Silver, it's like, it just sits there. Gold, it just sits there. I know silver's an industrial metal and this type of stuff. I heard it a million times. But it's not like, Jim Rogers may be right about agriculture. And it's just like the oil industry. This girl sitting on a bike and woman sitting on a bike here. That's another thing that people need every day. Energy, oil, that type of stuff. So, I can't see these other things not going up as much as silver either. There may be a panic into silver, but it's not going to go like that. But I think the bounce is probably about here right now. So and I also want to comment. I go back to I'm going to talk about this hurricane real quick. They're talking about you need $30,000 to hurricane-proof your home. I was building this fence here, and it's got like a double row header on it and stuff. So it ties all these 4x4s together. There's 4x4s every 2 feet, a couple 100 pounds of concrete. These are 4x4s every 4 feet. So, a lot of people are too lazy to do this shit. It's a hell of a lot more work to put in, twice as much wood, bigger nails, better stain, for weather so the wood stays strong. And, but it's cheap. It's cheap. It's a lot of physical work. It's not $30,000. I could tell you that. It's more like hundreds of dollars. It's nowhere near. Then bringing up earth on the side so it braces up the bottom so the bottom can't blow out. Generator, they're talking $6,000 for a generator. This generator here is about 600 bucks. Maybe it's more now. I don't know what the hell it is now. It's definitely under 1,000. It's a good brand. It's a very high quality Japanese made motor. It's, it's got the thing you pull on here. You don't need a battery for it. Starts right up. Puts out 5,000 watts, which is about 120 amp breaker in your house. So if you're very smart with your electricity, you can run your refrigerator off this. You can run some lights, TV. If you have the internet didn't blow up, you can actually hook up your DSL or your internet and all this kind of garbage. Whatever you need to do. So it's great, and it'll work for, easily it'll work for several days. You don't want to run it 24 hours a day, but that's 600 bucks, say. So it's not, I don't know where they come up. Then the other thing is, these are like practically, these are like hurricane shutters. They're aluminum, very, very strong. There's a centerpiece that goes in there, and so if you got wind, it's going to break through your window. Actually, the one problem with structures, why they come apart and that type of stuff, is wind will break through the window. Then the wind pushes on the opposite side of the wall, so you have a pushing effect on one side and a pulling effect on the opposite side of the structure. And then when the wind also blows into the house by breaking a hole through the window, it causes upward pressure on the roof. You want downward pressure on the roof. So that's why they fall apart. It's once the envelope breaks, and biggest place that envelope can break is the window. And the door is easy to reinforce too. You can make something for like, 30 bucks. It's a joke and a half. So, I don't know what these guys talking about. You need $30,000 to hurricane proof your houses against things like Sandy. That's total bullshit. But, I want to make that comparison to way you should be protecting yourself against financial storms, and that is with gold and silver. It's not expensive now. It's cheap now. I'm not working for David Morgan or Mike Maloney or anybody else or Eric Sprott. I'm just telling you straight up, common sense advice. They're correct. They're correct. They go ballistic when the freaking stuff goes up through the moon and they're telling you to buy it in. But it's cheap now. It's cheap now. I don't think it's going to pull back that much more. I'm going to bring out a couple little facts, because the one thing's coming up is going to be the PMI data for October. And the PMI numbers, I'll give you the second line here. PMI, which is the primary manufacturing index, numbers for October 2012, coming in from Japan and Korea, look weak. Now, I guess the Bank of Japan realizes that. They're initiating a new round of quantitative easing as of yesterday, October 30th, 2012. So what that means is, the yen is considered one of the safe haven currencies out there. So it'll be getting devalued some more. So ergo, what the hell does that leave you? Gold and silver? I don't see how they can hold this crap down too much longer. And the reason is, it's hanging by a thread. Now, I want to actually examine that statement, hanging by a thread. The whole scenario with this quantitative easing plus trying to hold down inflation is all hanging by a thread. The reason is because the banks are basically hoarding the cash, right? I said this a bunch of times, but it's almost like, how well could Bernanke keep this balancing act going? Because, I could tell you this. I've seen a number of businesses that were hanging by a thread, and they said, they're going to go under, and they were making good money for a hell of a lot of years, hanging by a thread. So, Bernanke could probably keep this balancing act going quite some time, hanging by a thread, whereas the banks are just hoarding cash. But the real curveball that's coming in here, and it's an obvious curveball, is China. And this is how I think. I used to get totally sick of these pinhead eggheads with the 50 million initials after their names that can't think clearly. Because sometimes the simplest things are the most important. China is buying gold. They're the biggest producer of gold, and they're a net buyer of gold. They import gold even though they're the biggest miners of gold. What the hell do you think that is going to do to the price of gold? You know what they're trying to do. They don't want to get rid of their stupid U.S. dollars because it's a pile of toilet paper, basically. It is. It is. But in the world of competing toilet paper, you got to look at this other angle too. If people are going to get rid of dollars, normally what they do is they don't go and buy gold and silver. What they do is they buy another currency. And there isn't any other currency that they can jump into. The euro is the second biggest one around. I don't know, you could buy yen, you could buy, Swiss francs, but there's not enough currency out there for people to buy enough of, to switch them out of dollars. So what that does tell me a little common sense, though, is that they're going to have to go into hard assets. The thing is, silver and gold aren't the only hard assets out there. And see, this is the flaw of, when BJF says a roll of silver coins will buy you a car. That's bullshit. I would love to see that. I'd like to see a roll of coins buy me a nice Harley with an S&S Sidewinder 93-inch stroker shovel head motor in it, brand new, custom, instead of from Harley Davidson. But, that's not going to happen because as the dollars, people try to get rid of their dollars and they don't want to have euros, they don't want to even have yen because Japan's using quantitative easing. They're going to buy hard assets. They're going to buy agricultural assets. They'll buy other base metal mines or some garbage that are maybe very well established. I mean, it's not good to just get into an adventure mine, but I mean anything that, major copper producers, Anaconda Copper or something like that, or potash, the ones that produce the fertilizer. All those types of things are going to go up, which means all hard goods are going to go up. Like these bikes will start going up. The cars will start going up. Even that type of stuff, because the materials in them are going to be costing more and more and more. Now, I think the sales pressure on hard goods like those things, like automotive and things like that, may not be too high in the West, but I think they might be pretty good in the developing nations like China and India, because the growing middle class is going to keep growing over there, and there's going to be a demand for hard goods by them. So this is going to keep the pressure up on all commodities, not just silver, not just gold is not a commodity, I don't consider it one, but not just gold, platinum, and palladium. It's going to put the pressure on everything across the board. This is why you don't want to have fiat dollars as your main reserve. You don't. That's a mistake and a half. You want to have a good amount of dollars on hand, but you don't want to have it as your main investment. That is, without a doubt, hands down, something you don't want to do. But if you're not in silver, you should have some silver, some gold. Agriculture is a fantastic investment. Probably oil too. Oil, some of the stocks and some of the oil companies. The brokerage accounts aren't going to all fall apart. That's bullshit too. But this is the time to prepare. And later on, when you go buy silver, it's going to be up quite a bit. I mean, it's not going to hit $400 an ounce next year or some crap like that, but it may be twice as much money. It may be. I mean, I think that's actually reasonable. And getting twice on something is a hell of a lot. So, and it's going to keep going up from there. So, it's just that, one my common sense rule is this: if silver starts taking off extremely fast and you get a double inside of like 3 months, that's usually a good sign to sell some. I mean, I know what silver bloggers will be doing for the most part. They'll be telling you to hold because the sky's falling, but the dollar's not going to crash that bad. And hate to say it, if the dollar totally crashed, we're going into World War III. So you better have more preparations than just silver. You better be knowing what the hell you're doing actually in true survival mode. So let's hope the dollar does not crash, because that's not a total guaranteed scenario. The dollar is going to totally crash. It might be a lot different animal, but it may not totally crash, despite what you think. It's just like this, in business. A business can rack up all kinds of debt. Hey, they don't pay it. As long as you still have a viable business and you can still go ahead and you can still produce and you can still have customers and that type of stuff, the business can survive. So it declared bankruptcy, restructured, and just survived. What do you think? You think General Motors went out of business? Really? No. I mean, they went out of business, but hey, you're still producing cars, aren't they? They're still selling, aren't they? That's exactly what's going to happen with the United States. And am I giving you a bunch of bullshit by saying that? No, because that's how things work in the real world with real companies and real businesses. This is how it's going to work with the nation. It's going to have an economic calamity. It's going to cause gold and silver to go up a real lot, spike, and maybe come down. It's going to be a lot higher than it is today from where it comes down to, but you know what I'm saying. It's not going to like totally end the world. Well, let's just hope it doesn't freaking come to that thing, because if there's like a total collapse, like somebody like BJF says, you know what? You're not going to just be walking around in la la land waiting for a freaking reset of the currency. You're going to actually be invaded by another country. But I don't think that's going to happen, because the United States, despite what you see on some of the statistics, still has a large industrial output. There's still a lot of hard-working people in the United States, and that is the economy. That's the economy. So it ain't gonna fall apart that easy. You got to remember, numbers are one thing, real production is another thing. I'd stick with real. That's why I stick with silver too. Silver's real. When all the short circuits happened out there because Wall Street got flooded underground and they don't have an internet. If a guy had a coin in his pocket, say, hey, this thing still works. The dollars are soggy, right? There's silver coins still there, right? Sometimes old tech works. But, I'm the type of person, I'm old tech all the way. Like if I had this bike, I personally don't even like riding a bike with the electronic ignition. I'll have a spare points set up, the old style, the old points set up with the condenser for the bike in my saddlebag, because I don't trust electronic anything. So, it doesn't just go with markets and all this type of stuff. I'm old school all the way. That's another reason I'm into silver. But, if silver goes up to $1,000 an ounce, and cars and stuff used to be $20,000, they might be $80,000 or more, easy. Maybe they're not going to go up as much as the price of silver, but if silver's going up, all the commodities are going up. That I can tell you right now. That's a postulate. That's a postulate. And that's probably what's going to happen. Dollars are going to find a home in a lot of different hard assets, not just silver. So a lot of stuff's going up. But that tells you don't want to keep fiat dollars. I don't even think in the short term it would be a smart thing, even over the next 2 or 3 months. I think fiat dollars is what you got to pay everything in, but you don't want that as your main holdings right now. Definitely not. If you got 50% of your money in dollars, definitely take at least half that money and put it in gold and silver. Am I a pumper and dumper? No. I'm telling you something common sense, and I said why it's going to go up. Because when this fiscal cliff comes, the dollar's going to take a hit, including the dollar index. And all the currencies are taking hits right now. Just like I'll repeat it again. Even the Bank of Japan, one of the safe haven currencies out there, with the yen, more quantitative easing as of yesterday. So the trends are on. But I just like to put a common sense balance out there, versus too much one way or too much the other way.